Well, good morning. Today we've got something special. We're going to be talking about a new book, and a book that has all kinds of different angles, whether you're young, whether you're old, and in between. I think it's going to be good for you. Carlyn Beccia is an author, illustrator, and graphic designer. Her children's books, including Monstrous, The Raucous Royals, I Feel Better with a Frog in My Throat, and They Lost Their Heads, have won numerous awards, including the Golden Kite Honor and the International Reading Association's Children's and Young Adult Book Award, among other awards. Her latest book that we're going to be talking about is 10 at 10, and she's here to talk about it. Carlyn, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So when we talk about 10 at 10, to describe it to people, you have picked 10 very well-known figures in history, and then you talk about what it was to be them at age 10. So this is kind of an interesting thing. It kind of gives a children's perspective on some very adult, very famous characters. So tell us about the book.
Well, the original idea of the book was I was going to tell the perspective of all these famous people from when they were 10 years old, because I noticed in a lot of biographies, they skip over those early ages. And when a child is 10, they're really trying to relate to a character. And we tend to get these impression that these famous people, they just burst out of the womb, being Einstein or, being Frida Kahlo and having this amazing artistic gifts. But they didn't. They were actually kind of ordinary at the age of 10. They were going through struggles just like all other kids were. And so I wanted readers to understand that these famous people that we think of as so special, they actually weren't that special at 10. And they probably were facing a lot of the same obstacles that many 10-year-olds face today.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people don't think about, Albert Einstein at the age of 10, maybe doing something simple that, most kids love to do, not knowing, later in life, he'd go on to be a genius and so forth. So it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, Einstein was, I tried to pick characters that all related to kids in different ways. And Einstein was my punk kid. It's not that, it's rumored that he flunked out he didn't. He was extremely brilliant. But what he did do is he pissed off his teachers a lot, and that got him kicked out of class. So I think with any child that tends to question teachers, I'm not saying that's always a good thing, but we need to teach kids to question our teachers. I think children will relate to his story on that level.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, this book, when I'm looking at it, I'm interested as an adult in the stories of these famous folks from when they were younger. But you're looking at getting both children and adults to be able to take time to enjoy this book, right?
Yeah, I always say a good book is ageless. It appeals to all ages. So yeah, that's my objective.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Another thing too is that you're an illustrator and graphic designer. You did a lot of the artwork that's in this book as well, right?
Yeah, so I work in a kind of a weird way. I work both with digital and traditional media. So I will start off with these really flat vector art. So, to communicate huge swaths of information. And then I will layer paint over the digital art to give it a little bit more texture.
Yeah, when you're looking through the book, there's some great illustrations, and I'm assuming, this would be in one case something that you worked on there, right? This is fantastic to introduce the character and give it, that animation that kids love so much, right?
Yeah, I try to get these really dense pages that are very organized, because I want the reader to have a lot to look at. I want the reader to go back and say, oh, I missed that last time. Oh, there's a little detail there. So what I did is I wrapped a timeline of their life around each page, so the reader could get a perspective of where they were at different points in their life, or if they wanted to read the text, because I really do believe children learn differently. Some children are very visual and they need to have those infographics like up front in order to engage them. And some readers, they want to read. They want to sit down in a corner and read from beginning to end. So I wanted to appeal to both types of learners.
I looked at it like the little cliff notes that you had there, that you can go right to and be like, oh, there's a cliff note point. And then you could go further into the story, which, you have obviously pages of, on each character or whatever. But it's fantastic. It's the surprising childhoods of 10 remarkable people. Was there a rhyme or reason to who the 10 were?
It was really hard to pick 10 people. And I'll tell you, I approached a lot of people that I really wanted to do, and they just didn't have the right message that I felt would resonate with kids. I was trying to get a little bit of everything. I was trying to get children that underwent racism. I was trying to get children that underwent handicaps like Andre the Giant. Bruce Lee had to learn to control his anger. I think that's an important message. Roberto Clemente was a figure who had such kindness too, even at a young age. So I really tried to hit all these aspects of personality so that readers could relate to them on different levels.
It's pretty cool. It's a very interesting book, and it's something that the whole family can enjoy, the kids as well as the parents and everybody in between. How do we go about getting the book? What would be the easiest way for folks to get their hands on it?
Well, I always say, please support your independent bookstore. Most independent bookstores will be carrying it right now, but there's all the usual channels, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Very good, very good. Is there something that's in the works right now that you want to tease, or is that going to be for another interview?
That might be for another interview. I'm working on a sequel to my book Monstrous, which explored the science behind monsters. I'm exploring the magic behind the unexplainable, like dragons, wizards, warlocks. But the book is not under contract yet, so it's really early.
If they want more information, they go to your website too and find out more about different works. Because if you don't, not only like this, you could also go and check out your other stuff. Give out your website as well.
Yeah, it's just my name, Carlyn Beccia. It's spelled Carlyn, Beccia, BECCIA.com.
And there you go. You can go there and do that and check it out. The book is called 10 at 10, The Surprising Childhoods of 10 Remarkable People. I have a few left to catch up on, and I'm going to do that today. And I hope that you will as well with your kids and the whole family. It's a great book. Carlyn, thanks for joining us today and talking about this.
Thank you so much for having me.